We talk a lot about violence in this country, but we rarely actually talk about how to solve it. At Common Justice, we believe all solutions to violence should adhere to 4 core principles. They should be survivor-centered, accountability-based, safety-driven, and racially equitable. Responses to violence should be survivor-centered. We pretend now that we do responses to violence in survivors' names, but rarely do we listen to them, and rarely do we do anything that actually delivers them safety. At Common Justice, we give survivors who've experienced crimes like assault, robbery, even attempted murder, the opportunity to decide whether they want to see the person who hurt them incarcerated or see them in a program. 90% choose to see them in Common Justice. That's not actually because they're merciful. It's not usually because they're forgiving. It's because they're pragmatic. At the end of the day, as survivors, there are 2 things we can't stand. We cannot stand the thought of going through what we went through again, and we cannot stand the thought of anyone else going through what we went through. So when we're given a choice, we choose the thing that we believe will avoid those 2 outcomes. The hardest people in the world to persuade that incarceration will keep them safe are people who live in neighborhoods where incarceration is common. They have paid the price of prison's total failure with their enduring pain. Responses to violence should be accountability-based. Now, we use the word accountability a lot in our country, but we usually use it to mean punishment, and they aren't the same thing. Punishment is passive. Punishment is something someone does to me. All I have to do to be punished is not escape it. Accountability is different. Accountability requires my action and my involvement. It requires that I acknowledge what I did, that I acknowledge its impact, that I express genuine remorse, that I make things as right as possible, ideally in a way defined by those I hurt, and that I do the incredibly hard labor of becoming someone who will never cause that harm ever again. It's not punishment that gets us to safety, it's accountability. Responses to violence should be safety-driven. We talk about prison as though its function is to produce safety, but the evidence suggests that it does the opposite. In fact, it's criminogenic, which means it's likely not just to fail to decrease violence, but to increase it. That's not a surprise for those of us who are in the business of reducing violence. The 4 core drivers of violence are shame, isolation, exposure to violence, and an inability to meet one's economic needs. The 4 core features of prison: shame, isolation, exposure to violence, and an inability to meet one's economic needs. That means we have baked into our core responses to violence exactly the things that generate it. Until we develop responses that do the opposite, we will never become safe in the way we deserve. Our responses to violence should be racially equitable. They have never been racially equitable in this country. First, our responses to people who cause harm are rife with racial disparities at every single point in the criminal justice system process. But equally, we have not treated all survivors equitably. It means that survivors of color on the whole are less likely to be met with the things they need when they've been hurt, less likely to be centered in our stories and understanding of who survivors are and what they want, and less likely to have their desires honored in the legislation that would otherwise be passed in their names. Similarly, the fundamental producers of violence in our culture are not just about individual characteristics. They're systemic and structural. So if we really want to be a nation where violence is uncommon, we will have to eliminate the racial inequities that currently exist in things like schooling, in income, in access to healthcare and mental health care, and in all of the fundamental social services that will make or break the well-being of a community. We have to stop pretending that violence is a problem that we cannot solve. We can and will solve it when we develop solutions that are survivor-centered, accountability-based, safety-driven, and racially equitable. For more resources on those solutions, visit us at commonjustice.org and subscribe to this channel.